Joining me tonight is Bethany College assistant basketball coach Brian Shaw. Bethany competes in the Division III level in the President's Athletic Conference. Coach Shaw is involved in game planning, recruiting, player development, and camps within the program. Coach, man, I appreciate you for taking the time to join us tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Second time here, and I hope it's the second of many.
Yeah, man, I really like having you on. I know you guys are over in West Virginia, but we talk, we text or whatever, and you guys are trying to make it a statement to start recruiting more Kentucky kids, right?
Yeah, I think for us in our program, we're trying to get back in the area and in our surrounding states, and Kentucky is definitely somewhere that we haven't exactly been in our history as a program, but we got a guy last year, and we're looking to expand on that and really get into Kentucky hard this year.
Man, I know. I don't know if our followers or subscribers has seen you the first time around when you come on. Before we get into recruiting, like, can you tell us a little bit about you, how you got into basketball, man?
Yeah, so for me, I'm definitely not the traditional story as far as getting into coaching. I was a better baseball player than I was a basketball player. I had the opportunity to play Division II baseball at Wheeling University, which is in my hometown. So it was really nice. After I graduated from there, I started my graduate assistantship and residence life. In that job, you know you're not working 40 hours a week, so you do have the freedom to kind of do what you want to do on your own time. And what I wanted to do was watch basketball, learn about basketball, do everything I could just on my own time. I wasn't doing it for anybody else. I graduated with an accounting degree, so I'm definitely a numbers guy. So I was doing a lot of data analytics on my own. At the time, my roommate, he graduated with his master's degree and got a job at Bethany College. And one day he just saw the coach at the time walking by and he said, "Hey, my friend really wants to get into coaching. He doesn't have any experience, but he's willing to do anything." And at the time, Coach Johnson was, he said, "Have him shoot me an email." So I did, sent him, you know, what I had been doing on my own and I felt that could help. And, we talked about it and he felt that I could help the team and brought me on. It's been happily ever since.
How long have you been at Bethany? What's really kept you there?
Yeah, so I started most of the way through the 2023-2024 season. So 2 full years, um, half, so like a half of a recruiting cycle for that 23-24 year, and then this past off season to now. So just about 3 years, I would say, full time with the basketball program. Not full time, but with the basketball program. I do work on campus in a role as well. What's kept me here? Few things. I'm from the area. Bethany College is only about a half hour away from where I grew up. My family is from the area, and in fact, my brother just had a baby today. So congrats to my brother.
Congrats.
I'm now uncle. But not only is it my family, it's the people that gave me an opportunity. I feel loyalty to the to the college because they gave me a shot. And thirdly, I believe it is a good a good college. It's a place where people can thrive, where people can come from all cultures, from all walks of life, and make a name for themselves and really connect with not only their other classmates, but also the alumni as well.
I've never got a chance to visit you guys yet. What's the campus look like? Is it just a smaller campus? Like, I guess isn't it part of like a little city in West Virginia, or is it out in the country?
It's a little bit of the first and last. So it is a smaller campus. The numbers for this year's enrollment haven't come out yet. They typically come out the second week of classes. We're on our first week right now, but our goal this year was to get to 700, so comfortably under 1,000. Our enrollment is growing. The year before this one, with the largest freshman class in the last 15 years, I know that we were on pace to break that again this year, but the official numbers haven't come out yet. It is Bethany is kind of its own town, in that the college is just as big as the town. It's not a huge place to be. It's a nice place because you're within a half hour, 45 minutes of a lot. whether that's Pittsburgh, Wheeling, Steubenville, a lot of places, but you're also far enough away to where you can focus on your classes, you can focus on your basketball. Um, it's a really beautiful campus. We have over 1,300 acres. Obviously, we're not using all of that area. We have a trail system that goes through the woods. In fact, our football team, Coach Blake, it's his first year on campus. He made them run some of the trails
Ooh.
for camp, and I know that there was. I'm sure it was tough, but in every picture, the guys are smiling. So it's a really beautiful place, especially this time of year. I mean, the trees are just about to start to change, not quite there yet, but that's when it gets really beautiful. The architecture on campus is incredible. So if you think about it, I mean, our college was founded in 1840. So a lot of brick buildings, a lot of really grand architecture. It's not going to be the biggest buildings in the world, but our old main is picturesque. It can rival, I would say, any building on any college campus in the country, with how beautiful it is. So it's a great place to be, not only to get what you need done on the floor and off the floor done, but also just to kind of appreciate where you're at in your life.
I've seen that. There's a couple of Kentucky kids who are going to be taking visits out there next month. When they get on campus, like, what do you expect them and their families to understand about Bethany when they show up?
Yeah, when they show up, I think the first thing is the people. We have great people, and I know a lot of places say that. That's kind of the first thing a lot of places say, but we really do. And it's not just the people that you're going to walk around and see that want you to come. It's everybody, whether it's someone who is we have a third party food company that comes in and does all our cafeteria stuff. Even they want to see you succeed. Even they learn your name. Even it just because people aren't directly affiliated with the college doesn't mean that they don't want you to succeed. We have neighbors and families that live in Bethany, that graduated from Bethany, whose sons and daughters went to Bethany. It's a really incredible place, and it's a place that is trying to get back on the map. Like I said, with enrollment going back up, we're doing a really good job, and our administration is doing a fantastic of job of looking forward and placing us in a place to be successful in the future, modernizing our our academics and really focusing on what's going to keep us long term. The trend of the small colleges going downhill. We're kind of bucking that trend, and that's everything to do with not only the people that I was mentioning, not only to do with the sports teams, but also the administration, the people that have vision for what this place can be.
When I talk to recruits, one of the biggest things we talk about is culture. What kind of culture do you guys have in that program at Bethany?
Yeah, so for me, culture boils down to two things. It's having a mindset, a singular mindset, trying to achieve a goal, and obviously the goal is to win a championship every year. Now, that doesn't happen most of the time. It doesn't happen for most schools, and we understand that. But everything that we do, the mindset should be to get us closer to achieving that goal. And the second part of culture, in my opinion, is holding each other accountable, and that's not just a job for me to do to our guys when I see maybe one guy missed a class and I hold him accountable, or one guy when practices start eventually misses a shot or does something silly in a drill, or takes a play off. It's also his teammates that have to keep him accountable. So having a singular mindset and accountability are the two biggest pillars for our culture. We feel that we've taken a lot of the right steps in the past years, especially since this past year was Coach Thorson's first year as head coach. We did a really good job of establishing kind of a baseline. This year, we're going to try to step it up and keep the standard even higher than it was last year. So I'm really excited. And it's going to be tougher on me. It's going to be tougher on Coach Thorson because we're not exactly drill sergeants of coaches, but it's a necessary step that we have to take to get to where we want to be.
You guys currently have one Kentucky guy on the roster. Let's get into Kentucky recruiting. Pure Prospects works with a lot of families and players, across the state. I think they want to hear directly, from you, college coach, about how Kentucky talent, is evaluated by you and other coaches. How much recruiting does Bethany do in Kentucky, and is it an area where you want to continue building relationships with the guys?
Yeah, so it absolutely is an area where we want to continue building relationships. Like I said earlier, we don't have our college doesn't have a past of hitting Kentucky hard in recruiting, but getting to know our Kentucky guy and really trusting him and saying, hey, this is a real hotbed of really talented players that, in my opinion, aren't getting necessarily the love that they deserve. It's a place that I want to take advantage of, and I want to get set some roots down in there for the future. As far as why Kentucky, for me, it boils down to a few factors, and one of them, maybe not the most important, but one of the factors is if I'm going to recruit a kid from Chicago and he's going to come from Bethany, he's going to be like, where in the heck am I? Like, where are all the buildings? So, Kentucky sharing a lot of the same geographical things with West Virginia, it kind of makes sense in that case. Although that might not be the top reason, that is a reason. The second reason, I think it's under recruited. If there's a ton of talent out there that I feel can and will make a difference in our program, if we ever do get a kid, another kid from there, we want to get them. But the talent is top notch. I mean, obviously the Texases, the Ohio's, the other Californias, those are always going to be blue chip states. But blue chip states that are 1,200, 1,400 miles away that we'll probably never get a kid from, it makes sense for us to kind of take a look around and say, hey, this is a place where it's undervalued, under recruited, and it's close enough for it to be realistic for a player to come to our school.
Yeah, I definitely think so. So when you evaluate Kentucky high school basketball, the guys that you've looked at, what do you think about the guys that you are currently recruiting and the overall talent that you've seen in the state?
Yeah, the state as a whole, um, quite honestly, was better than I thought initially. When I came into this, obviously, I didn't have the connections that a lot of other people had. All I had known was West Virginia high school basketball because that's where I grew up. I grew up in the part of West Virginia that's within 10 to 15 miles each way of Ohio and Pennsylvania. So I had a few glimpses of those basketball places, but Kentucky was not on the radar for me. So when I initially started to look into it, a lot of it for me was just kind of evaluating talent as a whole, evaluating teams as a whole, saying, is this a place where basketball is taught the right way? Or did it doing the right things that I feel that can impact a college game to win? Very, very quickly, I found out the answer is yes. Um, and from there, it's individual scouting and individual talent not development, talent scouting, and going for those individual players that can help us win. But Kentucky as a whole is I can't say enough good things about it.
Yeah, and from my experience, Kentucky, the current level of our players, are mostly NAIA or D3 basketball players. So I think it would be a great spot for you guys to pick up some kids. And my first college I went to, I don't know if you ever heard of it. It was called St. Catherine's College. It was a JUCO. It's shut down now, but it's kind of like I would think your campus is. It's kind of the biggest part of it was the biggest part of the town, and like the town rallied around it. So it was like a one of those programs. I imagine your program is kind of like that. Um, I know the guy on your roster is from Eastern Kentucky. Like when you're targeting Kentucky, like, are you looking at the overall state, or are you looking at Eastern Kentucky first and going west?
I think I don't really have an answer for that. Because I've done it both ways. Kentucky is a fairly large east to west state, so it kind of catches me off guard at times how far places are away. But there's never a time that I have discounted a player just because of their distance. I mean, we have players on our roster this past year from South Carolina, Texas, Nebraska, Florida, like all over the place. So, distance for me doesn't matter. And the students who do decide to come to Bethany, Obviously, the distance didn't matter that much to them, but it would be ignorant for me to say that distance isn't a factor. I mean, it's just the truth. If I have the same kid in Wheeling as I do down in Kentucky, it's probably more likely that I'm going to get the kid in Wheeling just because there's a lower barrier to entry. The
Mhm.
same way that if a school is 12,000 versus a school that's 10,000, there's a lower barrier to entry with the school that it is 10,000. So if I'm directly comparing two recruits, I will never talk to one over the other because of the distance. But in the back of my mind, I do understand that hey, there's probably a more realistic chance that we get the kid that's closer.
I was just asking, we text back and forth about some guys, but you're a D3. You guys don't have a large recruiting like budget, so traveling that far would cost you more. Or do you do more of your things over film now?
So we're fairly regional. Quite honestly, yes, we do a lot of film, especially if it's more than 4 or 5 hours out. Just because that's not feasible for our staff because we don't have a ton of hands, and I do work full time, so I can't get everywhere all at once. We're fairly regional. One thing that we actually did when we were recruiting our current Kentucky guy is we were looking at two guys at the same time, and they actually happened to play against each other. So it was really convenient. We circled that one on the map. We went down and got to see both of them. Really, really good talent, really, really good game, and got to meet both families. It was a really successful trip, kind of a two for the price of one.
Um, for the Kentucky families and the people are watching out there, like, how can they get on your radar? Just they email you, or reach out to me, or reach out to someone that you reach out to in Kentucky since it's new for you.
Yeah, I don't have the same understanding with Kentucky high schools that I do with West Virginia high schools, and that's obviously to be expected. Emails are a little tough for me just because I'm mixing in advancement emails and basketball emails, and it's a little bit tougher for me. I do tend to miss a little bit more of those, but I do still see some of them. The biggest way for me is reaching out to me on Twitter, whether that's a follow. My DMs are always open. DMing me, that's the best way. Obviously, I'm not a I don't mind if guys text me, but I don't want to throw out my phone number just for everybody because I don't have a personal or work phone. I have one phone. But yeah, the Twitter DM is definitely the way to go. The easiest way to reach me.
It probably helps keeping you organized from like separating those work emails and that, and as when you go to X, you know what you're looking for, and you're not trying to
Yes.
decipher,
Right,
your
and,
work
and
and.
and quite honestly, the first place I go to recruit is Twitter, is X. Whether that's looking at going into the search bar and doing one of the advanced searches for a specific height or a specific position, or whether that's just scrolling endlessly until I find somebody that I like. I do use the other recruiting platforms, but that's usually I'm sitting down to look for a ton of players at one time and really narrow it down from there. But in terms of just general recruiting, I'm just scrolling Twitter, looking at Max Preps, looking at Huddle, asking. I do this a lot. I ask our players if they have anybody in mind that they feel would be a good fit in our program, and usually they have a guy or two. So it's. I wish I could say there's one golden standard rule, but a little bit of everything.
Since you've been looking at Kentucky, are there certain events maybe you're going to hit this year, like some Christmas tournaments where there's multiple teams in one spot? Instead of hitting one high school game, that seem more feasible for you guys to see more guys at once.
Yeah, quite honestly, it depends on where we're at recruiting wise at that time. If we're behind and we have nobody by then yeah, we'll probably look to extend out a little bit. But if we have a guy or two that's decided to commit, we can afford to be a little bit more conservative on recruiting. So there are on our radar. We do have, and I don't want to release too much, but we do have an exhibition fairly close to Christmas. So we'll see. I can't confidently say one way or the other.
With the Kentucky kid, like when you look at Kentucky or any kid you're looking at and you see some film, what for you, like what makes you say I want to see more of this kid?
Yeah, quite honestly, and this is the truth is just I if someone sends me a video, I'm gonna watch the first 4 or 5 clips. Things that I'm gonna notice. Usually, everybody, if they can dunk, puts a dunk on the very first clip. And I don't mind that because that tells me, hey, you are athletic enough to dunk. That's good information. The next few clips are usually um, standstill three or a layup or some other skill um, clip, which is good. Then typically you have a few different things. You have a guy who's going to post 16 more of the straight standalone shooting three clips,
Yeah.
and I'm probably going to watch two more of them, and then I'm going to turn it off. Or there's a guy that kind of wants to mix it up. And the more that you can show me in those first 15 to 20 seconds, the better chance you have. Quite honestly, the biggest thing is I'm just looking for any combination of size, athleticism. It's really, really tough to understand the player's IQ within the first few seconds. But size, athleticism, skill, and shooting. Not enough players put defense in their first 5, 6 clips. Most coaches are only going to watch 5 or 6 clips. So you have to really pick your best 5 or 6 clips that show you doing multiple things on the floor rather than, hey, I'm a 3-point shooter that shot 37% from three. I'm going to put my first 37 clips as shooting because you are going to attract some people as a specialist. But if you go out there and do one defensive clip, one clip of you dunking, one clip of a nice assist, you're going to get a little bit more traction that way.
Yeah, I know you guys, like bigger guards. Like you guys like to get size and athleticism, and you're talking about those clips. The clips like you're talking about with a bunch of the same thing. I think they're cool for Instagram, but like the guys that I work with, like I'll make a clip for Instagram with like something like their specialty. But if I'm sending it to a coach or something, like I like to mix it up because you guys are looking for versatility, right? Like you just said, the more
Yeah,
versatile you are, the better chance you had to play in college basketball.
absolutely. One of the things that I look for, and I say it, is you have to do multiple things. Like you have to be able to shoot, you have to be able to pass, you have to play defense, you have to rebound. If you can't do 2 to 3 of those 4 things on the floor, then I can't put you on the floor. So being able to really showcase that skill set is really really important in a short amount of time.
So if you're actually filming, I mean not filming, but if you're scouting in person, like what do you actually personally look at other than like when they don't have the basketball in their hands or they're off the floor? Like are there certain things that you look for?
The first thing is, and I'm sure every single coach in the country is thinking a very similar way, is just like how well do you understand spacing? Um, that, in my opinion, is the biggest different. One of the biggest differences between high school and college basketball is the emphasis on spacing. More high school teams are doing it, but it's not to the point yet where we'll get a kid in from a high school and he's got it. He's got it pat. Um, a lot of the time they are taught to cut, which is good, but you also have to understand when to cut or why to
Mhm.
cut. For example, if you have, let's say you ball screen into a mismatch and you have a guy posting up on the left block, and your offensive players are in the left corner, left 45, right corner. Or maybe even the left 45 goes up to the rail, let's say the guy in the corner has to realize, hey, I am giving this guy absolutely no space to
You
work.
got to get away.
Right, you got to get away. Whether that's a baseline cut, whether
Hmm.
that's going up and setting a split screen for a post split, you got to get out of the way. Give him room to work. That is where most high school players have a ton to learn. Second thing is obviously the body, bigger, faster, stronger. Third thing is, and I say this, I actually said this at the last camp I was at, and I say it to every single person that comes up to me. You have to be able to shoot the ball. Obviously, if you're 7 foot, it's a little bit different, but most college basketball players have the ability to shoot the ball at a pretty high level, and the higher efficiency you are with that shot, the more you're going to play. It's just simple. If you have a guy that's shooting 50% and he can't play a lick of defense, then he's still going to play because he can shoot the heck out of the ball. So um, that's not for every program. That's for our program. We're definitely an offensive forward program. But yeah, those are the things that are really, really important.
So when you're looking at a guy that's struggling defensively, is it something like, oh, we can teach him defense and we're going to use his scoring abilities, or Or how do you guys handle a situation like that?
Yeah, I think it's trying to weigh whether the liability on defense is worth the talent on offense. Because I think it's more tough to teach defense than it is offense because so much of defense is your body, it's your quickness, it's your mind, it's your length, it's those things, and you can't necessarily teach a lot of that stuff. Whereas offensively, if you have a guy that's Kawhi Leonard on defense, and he's shooting, I don't know, 28% from three, and he gets to the rim okay. He's not going to come off a ball screen. We can hide that on offense. We can put you in the
Mhm.
corner. We can put you in a dunker. It's a little bit more tough to hide you on defense.
You were talking about spacing. I've been scouting for about 12 years. A lot of kids, they do well with the ball in their hands, but if they don't have the ball in their hands, they do a lot of ball watching and they're not moving. And I think that's one of the toughest things for the youngest kids at Kentucky that have a problem learning that. Any tips on that, or like, what do you guys do with a player like that?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I think it really is going to come from the high school coaches, the coaches that are with them the most, because there are times where it is better to just stand there, and ball watch. But there's also times where it's better to get to the next thing, and try to create a different advantage. The basketball comes down to one thing on offense. It's creating an advantage before a shot. And there's a few different ways to create an advantage. You can create an advantage with a cut. You can create an advantage with a ball screen. You can create an advantage with a hit and get. You can create an advantage with a DHO, off ball screen. There's so many ways to create an advantage, that you have to understand what those options are. And the one that I see far too often is they choose the same one every single time down the floor. When a play breaks down, they're going to go high middle ball screen. If they're coming down and they don't have a play, high middle ball screen.
Hmm.
Um, it's it. There's so much difference between a team that has the ability to play with freedom, and a coach understands that because they play within concepts so well, versus a team that doesn't do that. They're going to struggle so much more in the half court. I mean, the half court is where games are won and lost. It's easy to score in transition. That's why we want to
Hmm.
do it. That's why we try to do it 96% more than every other team in the country. But the games are really won in the half court when those possessions slow down, because they're going to slow down. So you have to be able to create an advantage in the half court, not with what coach draws up. Because if coach draws it up, then there's no thinking there. It's pre-planned for you. You have to be able to be a basketball player and understand, how can I create an advantage this time? Whether it's a pass and a screen away, whether it's a pass and a cut, whether it's um, anything, dribbling at somebody. And the guards do it okay. It's more the bigs have to get quicker in their minds. Um, when one thing breaks down, get to the next thing. That's the biggest thing that I have. Um, I know that was a complete tangent, but I could talk about that stuff all day. Another thing is, in Kentucky, there's still no shot clock, right? Because there's still
Oh,
no shot clock in
it's
West Virginia.
coming. Yeah, it's coming.
It's coming. Okay. Well, in West Virginia, there's still no shot clock. And the one thing that I never understood is there's guys chucking up shots like after 15 seconds, like there's four on the shot clock. You
Hmm.
know, there one team that does this incredibly well is like Spring Mills over in the Eastern Panhandle. They are they're not going to shoot the ball until they have an advantage. They're not going to shoot the ball until they have a gold medal shot.
Really?
And I think it plays in their favor. They're a really good team. They're consistently in Charleston. They're consistently in the top three. So just being able to understand the game is huge. And I think the question at the start of this was, what are some things that you notice outside of Ross Gill? And those are the things that I'm looking for. Do you have the ability to think the game? Because even that is something that can be considered a plus versus a guy that isn't quite a stopper on defense.
Especially with guards, like I think the faster that they can process the game like the higher level that they're going to be able to go. Athleticism and size is of course going to be a big factor in that, but being able to process faster, like is the help side defender off a ball screen going to hedge or are they going to ice out? Things like that. The faster they see that, the better play that they're going to make, the better read. So yeah, I mean, I understand like IQ is very important for you guys, but like I was talking about, you guys really like size. In the PAC, are you one of the bigger teams? You guys one of the bigger teams in the PAC?
Well, it's funny because I love size, and right now we're not a huge team. Last year our point guard was 6'1", which is in the time that I've been in Bethany, a smaller point guard for us. This year, our point guard, and I will throw him a bone and say he's 6 foot. But I'm coming
Oh,
around to small guards. They've done a really really good job of creating advantages, and when stuff breaks down, they have the ability to go off the dribble, or they have the ability to call for a ball screen, get a switch, and then go off the dribble and create advantages and kick it out. I think it kind of depends on the system, especially in a Princeton system. It rewards players that are longer cutters because there's so many backdoors. There's so many,
the
uh,
backdoor cuts,
yeah,
right?
the backdoor cut, split screens, slip, split screen, backdoor. You can curl. You can, well, I guess use isn't huge in terms of being a big guard, but getting to the rim without the ball was really really important. And because in our system we're so positionless, it kind of rewards a lot of guys that are bigger that can do multiple things on the floor. That being said, it's completely impossible to recruit to a system in our level of Division 3. It might be if you're a top 25 team in the country. We're not there yet, so a lot of the time we're taking as good of players as we can get and then trying to mold the system around them. And that's kind of a good example of what happened last year. Is we started out as a really, really Princeton heavy team, and by the end of the year, we were giving our guys a ton of freedom to play on the road because they had that ability, and a ton of ball screens because our guards were so dynamic and they had the ability to be efficient off that we kind of gave them the keys and allowed them to do that. So a lot of it comes down to what we see in the preseason. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to see anything yet. I'm chomping at the bit, but it's really important for us to kind of, yes, we have an idea of what we'd like to do, but at the same time, really putting ourselves in the best position to succeed with what we have and what we're able to get.
So you guys like to run the Princeton offense. So you guys, I guess the Princeton offense, from what I understand it, you're looking for bigs that can think fast. You're looking for like, I guess, without the same play calls over and over. So if they're not, playing in that Princeton offense, also, don't you guys usually play like a Princeton offense if you're overmatched? Don't a lot of smaller schools play the Princeton against like a bigger school?
I couldn't confidently say one way or the other. For us, it's just we feel that it gives us a really good advantage, and it allows us to play through triggers rather than play through play calls. So we can come down to down the floor on our 5 out, and we could have 16 different things we could do off of it, and that leads into 16 different options through that. So. And none of them are called. It's all read based. It's all trigger based. So for us, it makes a lot of sense. Traditional Princeton is taking 25 seconds off a shot clock. That's not us. We're the
Yeah.
96 percent pace. So what we've done is we've tried to cut out a lot of the fluff of Princeton to try to get to the bone, the meat and potatoes of it. We feel that we've done a good job of doing that, but also we don't need to rely on that because we've recruited guys that are so good at kind of doing their own thing. We recruited them because we feel that they're good enough and make good enough decisions. So we ought to give them freedom on the floor, and that's what we do. So it's a kind of a give and take. It's to answer your question, traditionally Princeton bigs. You can think of a guy like Diego Pavia, or not Diego. That's a football guy. What am I
Yeah, it was
talking
like,
about? I'm thinking Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, not Kareem, Cream. So from in Indiana State. So guys that have the ability to think the game, guys that have the ability to pass it a little bit, guys that have the ability to switch things up, maybe hit a three, maybe next time down. Um, if the split action is the left side, play opposite and go right. So just switching it up. So yeah, generally higher IQ guys.
Yeah, that and then you talked about, you guys needed a lot of motion and space, in that offense. So I guess my main question is, like when you're recruiting guys, are you looking for guys that are kind of playing in that system, or you feel like they can come in and play in your system, or are you thinking about you're looking at their physicality, or their, I guess, their frame and their athleticism, like we can put them in this system and try to teach that system to them?
So for us, if you play in a Princeton system, it's a plus. It's kind of like the cherry on top, but it's not the reason that we're recruiting you. It's nice that you're going to understand the concepts and things like that, but at the same time, we feel confident up as a coaching staff that we can teach a player how to play in our system fairly quickly within a couple weeks of full time practice.
For the people out there that don't know, how good is D3 basketball that haven't been able to get to see a D3 game?
Yeah, it's a lot better than you thought. So this an example is, obviously we're not a high major Division One team, but the first 8 minutes of our game last year against Bowling Green, we were up at the second TV timeout. So it's a lot better than you thought. Now we did end up losing that game by what felt like 60. It's a little bit intimidating when a team like Bowling Green has to come out and put on the full court press, but I take it as a compliment that we had him do that. You know, I did. We recruited a player from Florida A&M this past year, who's Division One. He came in as a mid-season transfer, and one of the first things that I asked him when he was at his first practice was, "How's the competition?" He said, "Coach, it's a lot better than I thought." And I think that speaks volumes, just because there is a stigma around Division III basketball. And another great thing for Division III basketball, not this year but the year prior, was the TBT and the We Are D3 team. It's kind of that notion is kind of being left in the past a touch, but there's still a lot of work to do in terms of getting away from that idea of thought.
I guess that stigma is there's not very many athletes in D3. There's more shooters. They're slower. So that's really not what it is now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for example, the player that I was just talking about that came down, he just signed a professional contract in El Salvador. So
Yeah.
if you don't think that there's an ability to go play basketball after your 4 years is up, you're just sadly mistaken. Just looking in other teams that are in the President's Athletic Conference, where I think I saw two or three other guys that signed to go play professionally, whether that be South in South America or Mexico, or whether that be overseas in Italy. So it's yeah, it's a lot better a lot better than you think. So I'm excited to continue to kind of spread that message and show people that it's the real deal. In my opinion, we're closer to Division I than a high schooler is high school team is close to us. So that's yeah, I think it's a lot better than people think.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. You're talking about, your D3. All right, so you're out recruiting, and I keep telling people this. All right, so you're looking at this region. You just don't look at the top scores in that region because that doesn't really tell you much as a college coach, right? So you could be scoring
Sure.
20 or 25 and like, but are you playing against weaker defenders? Are you taking 25 shots? How efficient are you? So just because you have 20 points per game doesn't correlate to playing college basketball at any level.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have a perfect example of this. There was a player, and obviously I'm not going to name names or mention where from, but he was averaging a ridiculous amount of points. And he shot it really well, high percentage. So that's obviously something, hey, wow, we should take a look at this kid. The very first possession we watch him on defense, I kid you not, he probably moved 4 steps the entire possession, walked around. The offensive player got an offensive rebound on him, and he didn't even attempt to box out. We just turned it off and literally never talked to him. So the stats are great because you can say, "Hey, look at me, look at me, look at me," but it's really the substance behind what you're advertising that's important.
Yeah, just like you were talking about versatility, like you'd rather have a guy with that's 10, 8, 7, or something like that. That would be, excellent for you guys. And one thing I don't think some players understand is, if you're a scorer coming out of high school, like colleges already have a 22-year-old dude that they're gonna have that role with. So you're gonna have to come in and play the role that that the program needs for you.
Yeah, and me being a data and analytics guy, this is pretty high up there. But I ran a regression analysis on our last in the time that I've been here at Bethany, on the relationship of what independent factor has the most influence on our outcome being a win or loss, which is a dependent factor. And of all the factors, yes, 3-point shooting is really important. Turnover margin is really important. Rebounding is really important. But what do you think is the most important stat in that, at least for Bethany College?
So not rebounding, not scoring, deflections.
No, the most important
Well, that's
factor in
not even a
deciding
stat.
whether we win or lost a game was our assist margin. So
Oh yeah,
for us, it's guys that are willing to share the ball and willing
because of
to.
your offense. Because
Well,
of
it
your
could be
offense.
that, but in my opinion, it's also um, it shows it's a physical stat that shows how unselfish your team is, how much they want to win for each other. They don't give a crap who scores, and it's it's something that we need to preach more here. I'm sure every single school wants to have more assists, but it's a really really interesting fact and something that we're going to be looking more into when we're recruiting moving forward.
So I wanted to ask you, your thoughts on elite camps, man. When I got into journalism and scouting, there weren't very many college elite camps. Now it just seems like everybody has one. Now I know some schools use them to their advantage. They'll contact guys that they really want to see, and then there's some like that'll send out a mass email. Now I'm not really asking you about your elite camp, but like, what have you seen throughout your career, like coaching and around the game with elite camps?
Yeah. So first off, I want to address we're not even going to have an elite camp this year. For us, it was kind of pulling back the curtain. It's a ton of work, not for a huge reward. And yes, we're going to be recruiting. Excuse me, we're going to be inviting the people that we want to be there, but also the people that sign up that we don't know that end up not really impressing us. We have to show them just as much as attention as the guy that we want to be there and we really wanted to see. So we decided to take a step back from the elite camps to kind of reevaluate our strategy moving forward. Um, there is value to them. In our past, we had signed 3 or 4 guys a year from those elite camps, and that's on both our varsity and our development team. So there definitely is value to them, but it kind of depends on the school. Where we this year kind of wanted to take a step back and try a different strategy that can help us land more impact guys. Um, I don't have a problem with elite camps. Um, for me, it comes down to two things: the intent of the invitation. If there's a player that signs up to an elite camp because he saw it on social media, great. I have no problem with that. The ones that I start to really not be in favor of is where you're personally inviting 400 kids to an elite camp that you've never seen before, and it's really really
Exactly.
difficult for the players to understand and to have an idea of whether that's a genuine invite because
Mhm.
they want to see you there, or because they want more kids to be there because that means more dollar signs. Um, there really is no way other than just kind of taking a step back and looking at yourself and being like, is this using your best judgment? There's no cheat code. Is this, in my opinion, a um, genuine invitation where they want me to be here, or I take a look at my stats and I'm scoring 1 point a game in high school. I could probably be like, hey, probably just a number to these guys. So it's very very um, case by case basis. Ours was really important because we signed so many guys out of it, but not everywhere is like that, and it is what it is.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I'm not going to say like a certain recruiting place, but they'll mass email these kids. And I had a kid like 2 weeks ago, and he's like, "Man, how do you announce college interest?" And I was like, "Hmm." And he's like, "I've got these 4 schools showing me interest." This kid didn't play varsity. I'm yeah, but anyway, I was like, what happened? He's like, "Well, man, I got this flyer in my email." And I was like, I don't want to bust your bubble. If you didn't get that from a coach, like I wouldn't take that as recruiting interest. And if you think so, reach out to coach and ask him a few questions. So I direct people to know if you get an invite like that, ask the coach, why did you invite me? Have you seen my film? Like, what do you like about my game? What kind of fit do you see me in your program? What's your roster look like? Just things like that to like see where you're going to spend your money at because recruiting
Yeah.
costs so much.
And even at that point, what's to stop a coach from doing a quick Google search, trying to see who you are, watch 30 seconds of film, and giving you some answer? It's really going to be a take a look inward moment, and really understand. Think about it this way. A vast majority, almost all high school athletes, high school basketball players are not making the leap. Um, can you quite honestly say, hey, I'm in the top, we'll call it 75th percentile? I'm better than 75 of the 100 players that I play against this year. Um, that is that's important, and it's very difficult because the dreamer in me says every single player, if they want it bad enough, can find a spot and they deserve to be there. But the very opposite part of me, the realist in me, says um, you're spending money on a venture that you're not going to get any return out of. So it's so difficult. The realistic answer is until um, students and coaches and everybody, recruiters, until everybody is transparent, it's not going to change. So I try to do my best to be transparent and say, hey, you're probably not a great fit for us. But at the same time, you know, if a kid, I also like to invest into kids that invest into us. So it's a catch 22. So it's very difficult, but just be careful. I guess that's the best word of advice.
Going back to recruiting, like you guys are D3 AAU. What kind of AAU circuits are you guys hitting? You guys aren't hitting like the EYBL or the 3SSB, I wouldn't think.
Right. Yeah. For us, it just doesn't make much sense. A lot
Yeah.
of those players are scholarship players. For us, we're very, very, very regional based. So the Pit Jam is huge for us because it's right in our backyard.
Yep.
For us, it's if we do our homework well enough, then we should already know of some players in some areas and then try to target those tournaments to go see them, but also see more talent from that area. So um, we're very, very picky. You would expect that a school like us would have to go out 1,000 times. We probably go out 5 or 6 times a summer to AAU stuff. A lot of what else we do is go to the elite camps because for 2 reasons, 3 reasons. One, transparently, they usually pay us to be there, which is nice. But two, the more important reasons are we don't have to put any work into this and we go get to see all the players. And the
Hmm.
third one is all of the players. There's a good amount of players. Even I was at a camp this past weekend where um, whether it's a player that I've known that I didn't get to see enough of, or whether it's a player I've never seen before that I get to see play, I've gotten a lot of value out of those, and
Hmm.
I'm going to continue to do that. Whether we have an elite camp at our program, it depends, but there is value in them for coaches from other schools as well as the coaches there obviously.
Speaking on those elite camps, how much value do you get out of it? Because those guys really haven't played together. If you got a kid that doesn't want to pass the ball, like you're not going to get on him, but like the other ones don't get the ball that much. Like, what kind of real look can you really get at those guys? What kind of evaluation can you get on them?
Yeah, my favorite type of elite camp is where there's a skills portion in the morning or whatever, however they're set up. And then the coaches have the opportunity to kind of select the guys that they want to be
Hmm.
on their teams. And then we have an opportunity to kind of coach them up or put in a set or two and then go let them play. Put some sort of structure into it rather than just saying, hey, go play. That's my favorite type, and I feel that we get the most value out of it that way because we understand who can think the game quickly, who can pick up what we're trying to put down quickly, who's unselfish within a real team setting,
Hmm.
and the teams are more equal than they would be otherwise. So those are the camps where I get the most value. And it quite honestly allows you to develop more of a relationship with the players rather than just putting five kids on a team and saying, "Hey, go out there and play," while the coaches are sitting up in the rafters watching.
Going back to X and social media, I see some kids with some wild tag names. Like, what are some other red flags for you on X? Like when you're going through there, you see a player, um, they're nice, but man, they could have this off the wall. Like I've seen some wild stuff over the years. What are some red flags for you, like when you see on a player's X account?
Yeah, I think you hit a nail on the head. It's just you literally can't even describe it. It's the most random stuff ever. Um, quite honestly, for me, it comes down to if you're trying to get recruited, you are essentially a business trying to market yourself.
Amen.
Um, if you don't see those posts being made by other business accounts, you probably shouldn't make them.
Mm,
Have a separate personal and a separate business account. And I'm not
yep.
saying business because every kid's going to go out and get NIL. That's not true. The vast nine, even 85%, let's say, of college basketball players don't get that. So treat it as a business, but realistically, it is a basketball recruiting account. Um, do not give a coach a reason to pull a scholarship or to stop talking to you because you made a stupid tweet. And I understand, mistakes happen, but it's at this day and age in 2026, it's unacceptable if something like that were to happen.
So I wanted to ask you about, the 5 for 5, the thing with the SEC today, or the SEC when their guys, they're telling, we're going to cut half of, like, it was some big penalties for these schools if, like, these fifth-year guys come back that were pro, or they were the 10, what is the 10 that you have to file or something? If you're going like the NBA, like it's a pro, it's a division, something 10, I can't remember the wording, but, so at D3, like, how I guess for your program, the transfer portal, we I know we kind of spoke about this the last time, but is that something big for you guys? Like, do you guys have to scramble in the portal, or have you, to pick up the guys that you need?
Um, Directly resulting from that, probably not. For
No,
us,
not from that. No.
right? For us, the transfer portal and the ever changing landscape of college basketball is difficult. For example, we had a student this past year who graduated who was trying to get a waiver. Um, in a very prominent role on our team last year as our leading scorer. Obviously, would like to have our leading scorer back. So we obviously wanted him to get um, his waiver, which I believe he still hasn't heard, and which is kind of wild because school has already started. But
Yeah.
um, it puts us in a very, very difficult situation because what do we do? Do we recruit another player and say, hey, you're going to be a really big part of our program, and then this player comes back and now you don't have the same role? Versus, hey, you're going to be a really, really big part of our program, and now the player getting the waiver or not getting the waiver, but ideally getting the waiver feels like you just recruited over him and now he doesn't want to play for you anymore. It's a really, really difficult situation. I feel that until some decently major changes are made, at least in the Division 3 level, it's not encouraging the athletes to strive for the highest education level possible, and that being a master's degree or beyond. I am in favor of the 5 for 5 because, quite honestly, 4 years and you graduate. We couldn't were not allowed to redshirt players anyways, so you're done. So you have no reason to come back and get a master's degree other than, hey, I really want to get a master's degree. I'm going to pay for it. I'm not going to play basketball. So you know, there's decisions that are made that I don't understand. I'm sure a lot of coaches agree or completely disagree with what I just said, but that's my stance on it. And as far as how it's directly impacted our program, I don't see that it has um, yet. Yet.
Well, I was just asking about the SEC. Like, what's your thoughts on the guys that are not trying to go pro but come back? You know, they're going to make more money, of course. But, you know, I have a problem with, hey, you've had your 4 or 5 years in school. You should have got what you got because there's these high school kids that need to get their opportunity. You've had your 4 or 5 years. Like, what's your thoughts on that?
I do not blame them one bit. I don't
I don't
think
either, but
the Yeah, I don't think the decision to come back and make a ton of money for the top upper echelon 1%, most of the SEC guys, that are making that type of money, I don't blame you at all. I put the blame on um, kind of how this has developed so quickly and the ability for people to sue and get rules changed. And it's just until there's a handle on it, I think it's really, really interesting, and it to me, it's quite interesting how the federal government plays a role in the NCAA and has the ability to grant waivers within, to my knowledge, a private organization. But that's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles, So it's the reality, and we have to adapt or die.
well, Coach, man, it was a great conversation with you. You know, I was gonna one more thing about. I guess I should ask you this: are you guys heavy on recruiting high school kids with the current recruiting landscape? I guess I should ask you that.
Yeah, in our opinion, we feel that if you have guys for longer, you have them the ability to develop them the way you want to develop them, not the way that the previous school wanted to develop them. We see a lot of value in guys that are here for 4 years. We want guys that are going to be here for 4, hopefully 5 soon years, but we also understand that, hey, if we got a hole in the roster that we need to fill, then we're going to have to fill it. Whether that be in high school or if we have a guy transfer out, or we haven't got the high school guy that we wanted, then we need to fill a spot with a portal guy. So we're not a portal first team by any means, but we're also not scared of it. It's solely dependent on how recruiting of high school players go. That's our priority from day one.
Yeah, man, it has to be so hard to have to do a full roster rebuild every year, right? You know, you're at that program, you got these people in and out, in and out. Like doing a full roster rebuild, almost like Coach Cal back at Kentucky or what he's doing at Arkansas. Like, it has to be so hard to put those guys together every year.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't imagine it. We only lost one guy to the portal this year, and we lost 4 guys, I want to say, to graduation. So we had a taste of that. I don't want to taste it again. I don't want to be scrambling last minute to fill spots. Um, we're going to do as much as we can in the early part of the season to kind of get these guys to say, hey, this is where I want to be. They're building something special. This is a special place. And quite honestly, we want guys that want to be here. We know that we're never going to have the nicest facilities. We know that we're never going to have the fullest gym. We know that we're never going to have a Boeing 747 flying us anywhere. But we have guys that want to be here and they want to win. They want to do it the way that we're kind of rolling out the red carpet for them. And that's huge for us. We want winners. We want guys that are, like I said, being able to do multiple things on the floor. If you feel that you're one of those guys, reach out to me. The best way to talk to me is on Twitter because we want guys that want to be here.
Yeah, Coach, man, I appreciate you coming on again. When you get out to Kentucky, man, let me know. Might catch you out in the gym, and yeah, like like Coach said, you want to reach out to him, reach him out on Twitter. It's Brian B Shaw, right?
Yep. My Twitter is Brian B Shaw, BrianBShaw.
All right, man. For everybody out there watching, thank you guys for watching the podcast tonight. This is Coach Bethany College Assistant Coach Brian Shaw out of West Virginia D3 in the President's Athletic Conference, correct?
Yes,
Is
sir.
that how? Yeah. Yeah, Coach. Thank you so much for coming on. I'll keep in touch with you. You know how we text and call, and hopefully you guys can hold Bethany, West Virginia down.
Absolutely.
Well, man, you have a good night, and I'll be talking to you soon.
Perfect. Sounds good. See ya.
See you, Coach.
Bye.